Hi there, and welcome to another vlog update of On the Desk with me. This week, I think I'm going to continue work on my flyers. I've had all my flyers on the airbrushing bench, and so I've been slowly working at those, trying to get all the highlights built up. And so this week, I'm going to be working on my little NightWing. And so here we go. As you can see, it was pretty straightforward. I just used an airbrush and did what colors did I use? I used a brighter orange and a lighter orange tone. These are the new Games Workshop paints: Troll Slayer orange, Wild Rider red. Wild Rider red is a really good one. It's not really a red, it's more of a orangey peach kind of color, but it's great for highlighting, because it's fairly different from Scarlet Red, which is more of like the blood red tone, like in Vallejo's range. It's kind of hard to tell, but the bottle does kind of change the color of how the paint looks, but they're pretty close in the same value. And so airbrushed it, and then gave it an ink wash. Now normally, when I do an ink wash for my Samhan stuff, I use this old red glaze from Games Workshop. It's my favorite color. I'm running pretty low. You can see she's probably only about here right now in the bottle. But this stuff is really good for glazing red, as it often would leave a little bit of a shine, but not so much that, it makes it look like gloss. But that's why I gloss a lot of my Samhan models, because I like to have that kind of that Ferrari speedy red kind of feeling for the models. And so, yeah, I was a big fan of this, and I've looked around for these, and I know there's a company that still produces this kind of stuff, and I'm just not really sure if it's exactly the same, and I don't want to be wasting my money. And so I believe the paint company is Coat d'Arms. They're the ones that produced a lot of the early Games Workshop stuff. It's got to be the same stuff that Privateer Press uses, because these are just like the old Games Workshop paints. And I will show you. Yeah, see, I have some of my old Games Workshop. This is the old snakebite leather. Label came off. Labels used to come off all the time on these paints. But it's exactly the same bottle, as you can see. And this is the first generation of Citadel paints that they were producing. And then they went to more of a, whoops, I'm knocking over stuff. They went to more of a hexagonal bottle back in the day. And so I still have some of these around. And the paint's still good in these, so that's why I still hang on to them. But they also used to produce a glaze and a shade. And so they've already been doing it for years, this glaze and wash system. And so it's nothing new, but they've just brought it back, because for a long time, when they switched over to the paint bottles that do this brutal screw top system, you have to, you unscrew it, and I can't even do it now. But these were awful. I hated these screw open lids. And so then with these ones, they brought back this, still had the same shape, but they brought it back with the flip top lids, which was, a little better. But anywho, and then so now they've got these newer bottles where they flip top and, got a nice clear surface, and, so it's what everybody's used to nowadays. Just a little history lesson for y'all. And so, with my model, I give it the glaze, and then along its edges, I take the brighter orange color. And that's not a really, really bright orange, but I think it's like the second brightest orange they make. Or maybe it's the brightest. I can't remember. I'm not up on the whole new range thing. But, yeah, and so it was a quick dry brush, just along the edges, and stuff, just to kind of bring back a bit more of that orange and keep that warm tone over the model. The model is really dusty. I often use just a regular paintbrush to kind of brush the dust and such off. Plus, too, my office gets really dusty as I'm often sanding or drilling something, and so yeah, it can get quite messy in here. But as it should, because this is my little workbench area. And so some of you might ask, what did he do for the base for this thing? Because normally, Forge World, they give you these models, and they give you the large stand, the clear stand, the flying stand, and that would leave the model like sitting like this low to the table, and it just looks like crap, you know. And so when I made this order, they were sending out the Valkyrie flying stands. It was only coming with the Valkyries, but it was the new flying stand for them. And so Forge World sent me a bunch, but I wanted this guy to be sitting at a different height than, you know, like if anybody's familiar with my bombers, they're all on the flying stands. And this model came with one, but I didn't care for this guy. I wanted him at a slightly different height. And so I searched around and got myself a 1/2 inch acrylic rod. I also use a 1 inch for my vampire. And so very carefully with my Dremel, I bored out the area for which to fit a magnet. And this magnet's obviously just a little bit shy of 1/2 inch, as there's not very much space between the edges of it and the rod. And so it's really just held into retention because I got it just snug enough to fit right in there just right. And then drilled out the base, and the base is, what's that? Anyway, the base is just like from, you know, any of the box stores, Walmart, whatever, and they sell these little wood plaques for like art projects and such. And so that's all it is just that. Drill out the hole, put your stand in, texture your base, and off you go. The magnet, and also the magnet's in the flyer as well. And that was kind of a tricky one for this model because the model, see, the wings move on this guy. I'm not doing that, that's still, whee. I love this model, it's so much fun. Anyway, just kind of cleared enough space and then green stuff that's around it and attached it to the this pivot point. But the hard part was that when the wings are back, you know, you can find the center of gravity, but then when the wings are forward, the center of gravity moves. Now it shouldn't move because it was the magnets attached to this, you know, the center of gravity changes, and so the model becomes a little bit front heavy when the wings are forward, and so it's pretty easy to kind of pick them off, and I don't really want to do it because I don't want to scratch up my paint job on it. And then so when he's like that, he feels a lot more secure, and do it enough times, he'll move his wings on his own. And so yeah, that's my NightWing. And so just free-handed the chevrons on the side, and well, it's not terribly difficult, you know, you just kind of eyeball where you want to put them, and then started putting in the black for the vents and such. And I also went in, mixed black with in the new line, I think it's lead belcher, which is like the old bolt gun metal, which is the darker metal. Added black to that just to make this a lot deeper, and then added black onto the tail fins. But because when I primed this model, I primed it a little too heavy, and so it's got really kind of a rough texture from the primer. And so what ended up happening is that because I work with my paints in a fairly thin state, and because of the water content, the paint bled out from where I was putting it. And so I had to actually kind of switch to a thicker base just so that it didn't keep bleeding all over the place. And so I think today I'll help start cleaning that up. And then I think, ooh, things are moving here. I think we will work on some other stuff. Maybe we'll dry brush the black as well. Or maybe the metal on the exhausts. Either way, let's just start working on it. Oh, and then what else is on my desk? Here's a model. It's kind of part of a commission. It's a troll. It's from War Machine, or Hordes. And he's like this fire starter kind of guy. And so the guy who owns this, and he had a commission to green stuff some other details on it and such, and so he made it kind of look, we wanted like this Ghost Rider theme, and so here, let's zoom in a quick second here. We'll zoom in nice and close, and here we go. Come on, focus. And so yeah, so it has this whole Ghost Rider theme to him, which is kind of fun. And so, what else? Oh, Dark Potential models. Everybody at Apocalypticon this year was getting these, so I got mine. I didn't actually go, but because I'm here all the time, I get one. And so people for the Vault can expect a little tutorial on this guy. It's a nice looking little model. It's kind of fun. Not sure what kind of color scheme to go for, as there's nothing really set out for the Dark Potential color schemes yet. And so probably just pretty much kind of just fly by the seat of our pants and see what we come up with for him. I'm thinking of something pretty simple. I don't think anything too complex. But he's got some nice face detail, you know, he's got this fabric flowing around him. It's a nice model. The gun's interesting. It kind of looks like there's like a little harpoon thing at the end of his gun, but that's actually with like the little laser emitter or whatever the heck it is. And he's kind of doing like this, you know, I don't know, Olay kind of thing. But yeah, it's a cool looking model though. And then just kind of quickly based it in some slate, some big chunks of slate on there, and just for texture, just for fun. And so let's grab a little spongy, because I don't like sitting my models right onto the table, as it's a quick way of ruining the paint jobs. So protect those tail fins and set them down. And actually, let's move the camera just a little bit here. There we go. More of the paint setup. Something more interesting for everybody. Oh, hurt myself too. So, yeah, we're going to do the black. That's what we're going to do. I just said it like 5 seconds ago and I already forgot. Yeah. Oh yeah, we're going to clean up the black areas. That's what we're going to do. So let's grab a trusty rusty brush. Grab one of these ones. A lot of people ask what kind of brushes I use. I often mostly just use the Citadel ones, as they're good quality brushes. There's nothing wrong with them. For the fine detail brushes, I use, let's get that one. Games Workshop. Other stuff, for synthetics, the Vallejo, they're not bad. They're synthetic brush, but I'm not, particularly crazy about them. But what I do like using this brush for, which is, a task that it's well suited for, is, where is it now? Where did it go? There it is. Liquid green stuff. I like using my synthetic brushes for liquid green stuff and other odds and ends. Sometimes using, when you're spreading the glue around for the bases, liquid green stuff is also a good choice for that as well. And so, what else? My Windsor Newtons, yeah. Windsor Newtons, Series 7, miniature. Okay. I think this is tripping up a lot of people, but this is a Windsor Newton Series 7 miniature. There is another Series 7, but the bristles are a little longer. They're about another 3 or 4 millimeters longer. And so they're really kind of like a fine quality detail for watercolor. A lot of these two are for, really like these brushes that we use in our painting. They're more akin to a watercolor brush. Simply because most of the time when we're painting, we're using really thin down paints and we're using very little, and when we're painting from our palettes, it's just, it's more like water painting than painting like like a canvas, like acrylic on canvas, the acrylic paint, we could use this stuff, but it's really thin, whereas artist pigment is there's a lot more pigment into the paint, and so, yeah. And then, I forgot. So I was talking about this ink. I was talking about this red glaze from Citadel. Now, this stuff is, from back in the day. And so I was like, oh man, I don't want to be spending the money on this stuff. And so, and it's hard to find. And if anybody knows where I can find this stuff, shoot me an email or messages or comment below. But yeah, if I can get my hands on this exact same stuff, not something like it, but the exact same stuff, I would be very appreciative. But the new Bloodletter glaze from Citadel, this stuff is almost as good as the red, and I've been using it for a lot of models. I recently did a tutorial on the Storm Talon for that Space Marine Flyer thing, which is an ugly model. I don't care for that model, but anyway, I used this stuff and it reacted the same way that this stuff does, but you can see here that they're not exactly the same value. This has more red, whereas this has more of an orange. This one's a lot warmer feeling than this one. This one is more like fire truck red, whereas this one's more of a, I don't know, like a marinara sauce red. Marinara sauce. Painting in marinara sauce. So painting. Let's paint. Let's get some painting done. No, I'm not using black. What am I using? Let's use some of the Scarlet Red. Now the Scarlet Red, this base color was the Bloody Red, which I was using for Vallejo, and I used this in an airbrush when I base coated all my planes, and it gave me a fairly consistent red. And this red is almost the same value, but I'll use this anyway because why not? So we don't need too much. And you're just seeing how I did that, right? Everybody who uses the potted paints should definitely always use a palette. And if you don't, you're going to kill your brushes faster than you want. Using a palette keeps your brushes a little bit longer, because often when you're dunking your brushes, you're getting paint right up in there. It's kind of hard to see right now, but I don't paint with the paint all the way up to the furrow of the brush. I always leave about halfway or a little bit more, depending on what I'm doing. But yeah, and so often I see people when they're painting and they're painting from their pots, they're dunking it right into the paint pot, and it's like, oh my, I can't even just say it. It's such a crime. It's a crime, and it just makes me cry inside. No, I'm not actually crying inside, but anyway. And so, yeah. So I'm taking a bit of a break from the Bio-Titan, as I think I'm going to have to use a bigger wash system. Somebody had commented on the last video that, using wash on it was kind of crazy. And, well, I can't disagree, but yeah, I mean, I had done it quickly for the video. But, yeah, you're right. I mean, it is kind of crazy just to use a whole wash like that, especially for a big old model like the Paraffin Titan. And so, yeah, I'm not going to be doing that. I think I'm going to have to go with something more of either like a homemade wash. There's a few tutorials out there. Les has a tutorial out there on making your own wash, and it's really good. And a friend of mine, he uses it and he swears by it. And so, yeah, why not, right? I mean, save yourself a couple bucks, especially for any of you guys who are doing the commission painting thing. And brave individuals who tackle commission-based stuff. I tried it ages ago, and it was just not my bag. I'm not much of a commission painter. Only mainly for the main point that really I'm not a fast painter, and most of the time I only paint for myself. And because I'm not fast, and because this is still mostly like a hobby to me, I don't get bored and burned out with it. And being a commission painter, you got to kind of try and take this business mentality that you're turning your talents into a business. And anybody who can get paid for their talents, more power to you, right? And yeah, so effectively, myself, I'm sort of like a commission painter, right? I'm sitting here and I'm painting models and getting paid. But the person who's putting the commission forward to me is the viewers, the people, especially everybody in the vault. And so really I'm kind of painting for everybody in the vault. And that's really my commission. And so, yeah, that's all I have to say about that. Turn it into Forrest Gump now. Let's clean some more of this stuff up here. This looks like crap. I don't know who the heck painted this wall, but he's doing a bum job on it. I was going to try and get these ready for Apocalypticon, but I was going to go, but I just couldn't find it in me to go this year. I had other things on the go right now too, and so time was better spent elsewhere than gaming at the moment. But I'd be there definitely next year. And I think also too, I'm gonna have to pick up some new stuff for my eldar, because it's been a little while since I've picked up anything. I think I need either a new Phantom to go alongside with my old one, or one of the little Scout Titans. And I'm leaning more toward the little Scout Titan. Unless, of course, I can swing both of them. If I can swing both of them, then yeah, you're going to see some silliness on the battlefield when you're facing my elves, my space elves of death, or doom. Alright. So, as you can see, we kind of cleaned up some of those edges. Looks a little prettier, a little neater now. You can see where some of that orange kind of changes, but that's okay, I'll live with that. And so, where should we go next? Let's do a little dry brushing on the metal. Do I have any metal? I do. Let's use some Iron Breaker. Some of these names on these paints is kind of hilarious. It seems a little unnecessary to go with these really odd names, because some of the names, they don't even make sense. Like, for example, Bloodletter. If you were new to the hobby and you don't even know what bloodletter is, or imagine you're colorblind or whatever, and you need to know that you're staying in the same realm of the paint range. Like, you want to stay with the reds, but you can't tell. It's just called bloodletter. Like, what the heck? Troll Slayer orange, okay. Wild Rider red, and it's not even a red, it's an orange. It's closer to orange than a red. Evil Sun Scarlet. Some people out there don't even know what scarlet is. Evil Suns, What was the other? Oh, Mephiston red. What's a Mephiston? Yeah, so some of the names are just kind of crazy. Ironbreaker, like, you know. Right, Ironbreaker. Okay. He's breaking iron. I don't know, it's kind of crazy to me. But anywho, I digress. So, grab my trusty, rusty dry brushing brush. And let's start right here. And so, yeah, I went for the darker tone because, I don't know, it was different. I wanted it to stay pretty close to the black range. As often the tendency with a lot of metals, especially on eldar vehicles, is to go really kind of bright. And this model was pretty bright on its own. And so, if I did it up to a pure silver, it would start to look too close to white. And that just doesn't do it for me. It's not right. I like the same reason I do my weapons on my vehicles in black instead of white. As, I don't know, the black weapons feels a little bit more menacing rather than white weapons. Like, can you imagine if these were white? And then he's also got the two little bright lances underneath, and those were white? I mean, I don't know. No, it just doesn't work. It doesn't work for me. Especially when you've got so much red, which is a mid-tone, then you have black, which is your negative tones. And so what contrasts well with the negative tones is white. And often, little elements of white, like the Samhan logo, often those little elements, or even bigger elements of them, they balance better on the model because it only takes a little bit of black to balance a white portion as far as the composition of your piece. And if you have too much black and your mid-tone and you only had a little bit of white, it just doesn't work. And if the model will end up feeling just way too dark. And so, yeah. This is a little bit of color theory for y'all. Yeah, just dry brush. Moving my dry brush around. And I'm busting into a song again. I have to make an album. Painting or singing while you paint. Painting while you sing. That would be the more profound way of thinking of it, right? No, he's not singing while he paints. He's painting while he sings. Yeah, I know, I'm cracking. It's okay though. We're all allowed to crack up once in a while. And so, well, you know what too? I got those comments from the last video ready too. You know what? Let's take a couple comments here. Well, dry brushing. The other hard part, or the tricky part about dry brushing, is that when you have you have your pigment on your brush and you wipe most of it off, there's still, you know, light residue left on there, and so that's what you're applying to your model. But the thing is that really what's happening is when you're dry brushing, you're removing that acrylic medium from the bristles, and you actually end up with almost like the dust of the pigment, and that's not really good, because I know, like, red paint, it often contains cadmium. Now, it's often in oil-based paints, but in acrylic paints, I'm not sure what they use to make their red paint, but yeah, it's often cadmium. And back in the day, a lot of artists were croaking under using cadmium paints. Yeah, because licking your brush is a habit that painters have been doing for years upon years. And so, let's get to a comment here. Blood Angel J.A. Cool. I can't wait to see it painted. Oh yeah, the biotype. Yeah, I haven't done any more work on it since the last update, so I'd like to see it painted too. What do we got here? Ironclad 24. I'm a Chaos player and just recently purchased several Blight drones from Forge World, and they are a flyer squadron with very powerful blast weapons. Well, that's not really a question, is it? It's more of just a comment. But yeah, those Blight drones, those are cool. And the thing is that I'm kind of curious about with those Blight drones is that texture that you see in the pictures, is that texture modeled on that heavy kind of corroded rust feeling? I haven't seen a Blight drone in person. In person, it's kind of weird way of saying that. But anyway, I haven't seen one, and so I'm kind of curious. Like, do they have that really severe, like corrosive rust? I always describe it as barnacle. Like a barnacle on a ship. But what is the proper term for that? That when the corrosion is, the rust is like just scaling upwards. It's just, yeah, I don't know how to describe it. Oh my. Okay, let's get to the undersides here. Now you can see the underside here. I haven't really done anything with it. Probably just a quick dry brush. I also got to fix up some of these little corners here where the paint rubs off. But when you judge it from the top, and you can see there's a bit of a sheen to it, and that's from the glaze. And whereas the bottom, it's still pretty matte because it's just, what I did was I primed them. Did I prime them? Geez, I can't remember now. I think I did prime these white, and then used my blood red. Yeah, it was the prime. I sprayed them white, and then used blood red in an airbrush. I think it was the GW spray gun thing, and yeah. That's what I did. And so, get to some more dry brush. No, let's get to more questions or comments. Reader comments. Emperor's Wrath. Woodworking opera singer requests shellacked risen for Alexia. What? No, that one I think is kind of going over my head. I'm sorry, Emperor's Wrath, but yeah, you kind of lost me on that one. And now I feel all awkward. I'm not sure what that means. Give me a sec here, people. Woodworking opera singer requests a shellac risen for Alexia. What the heck is a woodworking opera singer? Woodworking. Dude, you're gonna have to explain that one to me, because I must be dense today because I don't understand what that means. What the heck is this? Pufflop? Pooflop? Anyway, happy little biotype. Reminds me of Bob Ross. Would love to see you do some works. Well, we have orc tutorials going up, and so it's not really my bag right now to do some do some orcs, and so eventually down the line I probably will, as orcs are fun to paint, and I do them slightly different than most other people. Not to say that mine's any better, but just I do it a little differently. And well, okay, I'll give you a hint. I prefer my orc flesh to be a little bit closer to the lime green, kind of like this. That's kind of how I like. I shouldn't talk when I brush my mouth, especially when it was just in my hands, and who knows where the heck my hands have been. All over them all. That's really big. Anywho, let's take another one. Salamander. I think you would be a great country singer. Great work, Kris. Well, thank you. And the country singer? Let's just stick to painting models. Who knows, you might see a video where I'm in cowboy boots and singing a song about my broken model. A tear for my broken model. A tear for my broken NightWing. The ideas are already flowing. Oh my gosh. Get us crazy territory when we start doing these vlogs. See, you guys are watching it, but right now I'm just sitting here in my office and I'm talking to myself, basically. I'm talking to you, but I mean, it's not like you guys can respond right away. Wait. No, I don't hear nothing. Alright. Tyranids always win. Yay, finally a Hierophant. Yay, finally. I know. Now I'm taking a break, and if you tuned into this one, Tyranids always win. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm working on my cheesy eldar. My elf things. What are some of the other names for the eldar? I know they got all sorts of lovely names. Was in the old edition, the orcs used to call them pansies. I think that one still sticks. People still use that one. Okay, what do we got here? Rich 9517. Oh, he was responding to somebody else's thing. Okay, Chicken Mac Nugget. There's something incredibly relaxing about your voice. You know, I'm glad you think that my voice is relaxing, because inside my head, my voice annoys the heck out of me. Alrighty. Getting into dry brushed. I don't know if I'll go any brighter than that. They look pretty good. Maybe, no, let's do a little bit of silver, I guess. Ooh, better question is, do I have some silver? Not in the Games Workshop stuff. So, let's go over to Vallejo. Yeah, there we go. We use some of the silver. It's just silver. I don't know. Yeah, it's just called silver. I think it had another name. This used to be, like Games Workshop was mithril silver. And so really quickly here, let's do a little dollop of silver. Not thinning it down at all, as I really don't need to, because when you're dry brushing the paint, you don't need to thin it down really. You can, but really when you're dry brushing, you're looking to take the pigment straight from the palette to your brush. And then, see, I always have this old t-shirt here, and this is what I use for dry brushing. Make sure it's an old t-shirt. And when you dry brush, you're always taking off as much paint as possible. But you know that already. And if you don't, too bad. Okay. Yeah, that's a little better. We're just going to only hit the tops of the engines. Just on the, or in that central break on those nozzles. Yeah, just to give us kind of a sharp highlight. And you know how like the sunlight's coming straight down, and so you have darker edges along the sides, and so that's what we're going to go for on that. Just more of a cleaner. Now I suppose I could put you know, like exhaust fumes and burn and stuff like that, but nah. I like my eldar to be clean. I don't usually do a lot of battled in, you know, my eldar stuff. I don't know why. I just prefer the cleaner style of them. Whereas Space Marines, you know, they look better when they're all battle damaged, because, you know, they're supposed to be grimy and fighting all sorts of wars and all sorts of fun stuff like that. Alrighty. Where are we? Space Frisian? Frisian? Space Frisian? What's a Space Frisian? Sounds like Bob Ross. was doing an impression of Bob Ross, and so it would make sense I sound like Bob Ross. Maybe next I'll have to do one as Christopher Walken or something. You know, do a painting tutorial in a Christopher Walken type of tone of voice. Trizik, I really agree about GW not telling what they're up to. What they're up to, really. It seems like they rely on rumors to up the hype these days. I think it's kind of weird strategy, really. Don't understand why they can't just give us previews for what they have planned. Yeah, you know, like the Games Days. You know, people, like, how many people went to Games Day Chicago this year in North America? I don't think a whole lot. And, you know, what seminars did they have? Did they have previews? You know, like, before there was, you know, when you go and meet the designers, talk to the designers, you know, you can ask them questions about upcoming things, and, you know, it doesn't seem like anything like that nowadays. And so, you know, I think that's really unfortunate that they're not, you know, they're not building up the hype like a year ahead, because, you know, Forge World years ago said, I can't remember the fellow's name now who made the Phantom Titan, but he said it in a seminar like years ago that yes, they're working on a Phantom Titan. And so I was like, yeah, Phantom Titan, yay, and I was so happy. And they built up the hype on it, you know? And that's really what they gotta do. You know, you gotta build a hype because they want to make sales, and so, you know, that's my opinion. Lufgar, thanks for another great video, Kris. Open the pot and put a toothpick in the hole of the hinge. That'll keep it open for you. Yeehaw. Yeehaw. Oh, right, yeah, I was having a problem keeping the thing open. Well, I didn't realize that the way these things, geez, what the heck? The way these things are designed is that there's a little catch right in the little lid. And so if you open it far enough, the little catch catches, and boom, it stays open. I didn't realize that. Now, you really don't want to be doing that with your paint lids, because often if you leave it, well, this one doesn't, but anyway, you don't want to leave it open too long anyway. Like I said, you want to go in there, grab your little bit of paint right off that lip in there, because what you do is you shake it, right? And then you open that up, see, look, it's full of paint. So you just grab your little dollop of paint, close your lid, and you're not exposing the rest of your paint to the air and having it all dry out on you. Alrighty, King Baby, oh my god, washing that entire model, WTF, just dip the thing in mini wax wood stain, give it 2 shakes, and be done with it. Yes, that's the fellow there. I don't think you'd have to dip the entire thing. I'd need a big flower pot bucket to do this model, and this model's huge. I mean, the model's like this big. I'd need like a big bucket full of that, like a vat. I need a vat, man. I need a vat. So, no, I gotta use the brush. Salamander. Salamander again? Did he write? Holy man. Must have read a couple times. Hey, Kris. I have a little problem with painting from a palette. A palette? When I paint from a palette, the paint is getting dry really quick. What kind of palette should I use? I'm using a dish now. Well, a dish is fine. A dish is fine. Anything that you can really use. Like, see, this here is a piece of glass, but I use this in the videos for the tutorials because it's reusable, and I take my trusty rusty palette knife and I scrape the paint off, Windex it, you know, have the Windex over there and everything, and I Windex it. But see, this lid, I use this between stuff where I'm just painting, and so yeah, that's all I do, is whatever you can find is a flat surface, and you know, you don't care about paint sitting on it for a while or whatever. Yeah, I used to use those plastic margarine or butter containers, you know, wash them out, of course, because you know they get that buildup of oil and grease and whatever. Use those. Geez, what else can you use? Now, if you're finding you're having a problem with the paint drying out on your palette, then I would strongly suggest getting a wet palette or making a wet palette. A video I made a while back shows how to make a wet palette for $4. So a wet palette is not an expensive option or anything like that. Privateer Press makes a wet palette, and to my knowledge, it works really well. But the principles behind it are really simple and really basic. and a wet palette. Now, wet palette isn't for wet blending, but it can be, and it's really good at that too. But I've had like for my wet palette, I don't have my wet palette here right now because I just don't. It's in the other room. But anyway, the wet palette keeps your paint wet longer, and that's even with the lid open. And I have one where you can close the lid, and often the wet palette you can close it up. And so I've had my paint stay wet for almost a week on a wet palette, and that was just like taking a regular little dab of paint, putting it on the palette, and it stayed wet for a week. And so, yeah, if you're finding that your paint is drying out too quickly, yes, that's what I would do. And often too, don't use so much paint. Take like 1 or 2 dollops, like just you just take your brush and just one little scoop of paint, put it on the palette, work with that until it dries. Then do another little thing and go like that. But yeah, otherwise, yeah, I would go with a wet palette. And for most people, you should always be using a wet palette, especially when you're doing your color blends and things of that nature. The wet palette is just great. So, the Noobzor. Kris, your painting vlogs are awesome, and you make them fun. Keep them up. Keep them up. Okay, I will. Lord Hampshire. Lord Hampshire? Lord Hampshire. Lord, I don't know why that's cracking me up, but anyway, seems like kind of a small brush for such a large model, but what do I know? Well, it is kind of a small brush, but it's the Games Workshop wash brush. It's the one designated as a wash brush, and that's what I was using on that model. And it's pretty big, and you can see how like the long bristles on it. See, like these miniature brushes, they're more like watercolor brushes. And so for anybody shopping for alternatives to these kinds of brushes, yeah, look at the watercolor brushes, and really those are the kind of bristles that you want. They're natural hairs, natural fibers. Often a lot of them are sable and what have you. But yeah, and I can't help but look at my brushes. They just taste good. I use mint flavored water. No, I don't. I'm just kidding. And so that's all the comments from last time. And that's about all the painting I'm going to get done right about now. And so, thanks for watching. Happy wargaming. And keep those questions and comments coming, because it's lots of fun to read. And some of these online handles you guys have just crack me up. And so I'll see you guys next time.